Welcome to Vote Home, the podcast series that wants you to have a choice on 9th of June 2024. My name is Narcis Matache, and together with Zoe Nicot, we'll be hosting the lead candidates from hopefully every political party in Denmark standing for the European Parliament elections.
And yes, over the next 60 minutes, you will get to know our guests, their political standing and relationship with the international community in Denmark, and their view for the future of the EU, identity in Europe, and knowledge of the EU, etc. And stay tuned until the end, because we're going to have a fun challenge in the last segment.
And our guest today is Stine Bosse from Moderaterne, or Moderates if you want to call them, or it's basically the social liberals, the new social liberals of Denmark. Stine is actually very, very active in both the business world. She still is very active in the civil society. She's the president of Plan International Denmark. She's been the president of European Movement, so she has, I see, very strong connections with everything that is European. She's a former CEO of an insurance company here in Denmark, one of the largest ones, and many other things that I guess she herself will let you know about soon. Welcome, Stine, and thank you for taking the time to be with us, with our audience. We're looking forward to hear what are your thoughts and what do you believe about internationals and them voting.
Thank you very much, Narcis, and it is a pleasure to be here with you and Zoe, two very, very nice people that I have known for now some years, also very engaged in the topics of Europe and Europe as such. And for me, I can tell you, Europe has been part of my life, probably more than average, since I was born, because my mother was English. And the fact that you have some kind of element of not only being Danish, not that is bad, but it gives you a dimension, it gives you a thinking. And at least my mom was very clear from the beginning of my life, explaining to me what, Europe was about. Later, what was the common market about? Why was it important? She experienced the Blitz over London during the Second World War. And that was, of course, very, very serious stuff for her. She never really got over it. But she was very clear and made sure that I knew everything about what Europe is about and the total history. So for me, it's always been a natural kind of identity. I'm Danish, and that's for sure, but I'm also European. And the reason for in my career, always been interested in Danish business life, but also European business life. I have celebrated now 12 years in Allianz, a big German global insurance company. Done a lot of work in many other European countries, and that has been natural for me. That's been part of my business DNA. But more, how could I put it? To me also a surprise, and I know it was for you, because you challenged me on that the other day. Why did you suddenly become a candidate? Why now? And that is a very good question. But I guess I have been waiting for three things to be clear: the right party, the right subject, namely the European subject, and also the fact that if you're invited in times like the ones that we're living in right now, you are more than, it's an obligation. You have to say yes, you have to go for it. If there are people trusting you that think that you might make a difference, you've got to try. So all three boxes ticked this summer when I was invited to join the Moderaterne. And I was part of the party, but to join more actively politically, I just couldn't refuse it. So that's sort of the background for why I'm here, and also my sort of story on why Europe was always very important to me.
Thank you so much for that background, and that really, you've explained really well why you also decided to go into European politics now. So then my question would be, then now that you're a candidate, what are your maybe concrete project or plans that you want to fight for if you get elected to the European Parliament? If you have a few concrete examples.
Definitely. I mean, there are many subjects that we could talk about, but for me, there are three main areas, and I do have difficulty in prioritizing between two of them, so I will name them, and say these two probably are equally important as I see it, and then there is a third that is also, I guess, part of the security situation. And then I have some other subjects that I would also love to just have a couple of words about. But first and foremost for me, this election will be about security and peace of mind. And security, because for some of us, and you might remember this, so we have been also in debates, you and I, on some of these subjects. For some of us, it's not a complete surprise that we should care more about Europe and sovereign thinking in Europe regarding the total geopolitical situation. Some of us have actually been talking about this for quite a while. But it is now very evident and obvious for many, many people that, we have an aggressor right outside our doors. And obviously it's Russia and Ukraine. I'm talking about the occupation of Ukraine, and before that Crimea. And this is why perhaps we should have known, but we didn't really take it serious enough. Now we know, and now we know for sure that, in my opinion also, it's not going to stop before he is stopped, before they are stopped. And this, of course, is very demanding. It is, on top of what we experienced with the COVID, where we very quickly came together as a community in Europe. Now we really did some good things there, and now we sort of experience once again, we have a situation, we need to come together, we need to get our common act together. Think about how we increase the total security position of Europe, not looking away from NATO, obviously, but building together our security in Europe. So that's probably, in my opinion, still the most important subject. But competing with that is, of course, climate change. And that doesn't go away because we suddenly have a security situation. So climate change and security, and they actually interlink, is of course a very, very important issue. And we have to go from goals regarding our climate to actions. And that will include a lot of initiatives and a lot of change in our lifestyle, in the way that we handle many, many areas. And of course, we might as well go right into the mud, so to speak, and talk about that in our agricultural sector, we will have to see a lot of changes. And I do think this is doable. I do think that we can introduce CO2 kind of taxes, and alongside of that also think about how we spend money to support the agriculture in Europe on a total. It is a huge budget as is, and if we think about it in a more climate favorable way, there is a lot to be done to actually support our agriculture, farmers and all the industries around this, to go from where we are today and into a much more sustainable way of producing and running as businesses. But it's not going to be easy. I do think it is very necessary, and it's nothing that we can shy away from. So we are very eager as Moderaterne to really get this done, but get it done in a way where we don't leave any farmers just to themselves, but we actually use some kind of, tightening elements on the CO2 emissions, but also the carrot on, if you go this direction, we are here to support you. We're here to help you with the transformation. And then finally, I do still think that solving the migration situation on the outer borders, especially in the south of Europe, that is a task that we have to do. We cannot leave those issues any longer. It will be dangerous for our sort of staying together, because there will be so much frustration in the countries that we have, in my opinion, left far too long to solve these issues. We've got to come together. Some of the latest initiatives from the Commission are good, but we need to do more together on these issues also, and not just closing doors, but also opening doors. The way to Europe has to be education, and the way that we should think about countries in Africa should be investments and partnerships.
Thank you for those answers. So I hear security, climate, migration, partnerships, and a lot of other interesting topics. Now I'm going to go to something a little bit different. But one thing is Danish voters, something else is EU citizens living in Denmark that can also register to vote for these elections. Yeah. So I was wondering, in your view, why should EU citizens in Denmark vote for the elections in Denmark? And also, do you have any experiences where you have met people living in Denmark that are EU citizens that are eligible to vote?
Yeah. First of all, I will have to be very clear. There is one important thing, and that is voting. I mean, make your voice heard and take a decision. If you vote in your home country where you originally came from, or where if you are here for a shorter time, just vote here or in any European country. That is the most important thing at all, is to use the rights that we have in democracies. Then I, of course, think that if you are in Denmark and you follow the debates from Denmark and you follow the candidates from Denmark, it is natural for you to vote also in Denmark. And perhaps it could be a different experience. If you are here for forever, it's obvious. If you are here for a while, it could be part of your education, and how is it to be living in Denmark, following Danish candidates, following the debates that will be taken here in Denmark, could be part of seeing the world in a different perspective. I have a house in Greece, and I love going there also because I feel it educates me. I do think I see things in Europe differently when I spend time in Greece and try to understand where do their positions come from, how do they think about Europe as such. So that would, for me, be the one point. And then, of course, I think you should vote for the Moderaterne, and preferably for me, of course, because I come with a different background. I come with a background which is a blend of knowledge of Europe, some knowledge of political work, enough to be efficient, and then I come with a background from business, which is different, which takes another kind of toolbox into the political arena. I'm slightly impatient. Some of the issues that we have to work with in the next 5 years, I think, needs people to be impatient. No more talking, a lot more acting. So that kind of thinking. And the moderates, we are, as I think it was said in the introduction, we are liberal. We belong to the Renew group, but we also have a strong sense of care and social aspects, because we realize that if we want to be successful with business, if we want to see growth in our communities, if we want to see stable developments in countries in Europe, we also need to make sure that people are not left behind. So that's sort of the political approach as such. And we are extremely friendly towards people who want to come to our country and work and contribute. That goes obviously for people from Europe, but it also goes for people from outside Europe. And we see a lot of need for a different approach to thinking about the workforce and thinking about people coming to Denmark and contributing to our country. That is a huge privilege. Being a country where people actually want to come and take part and pay taxes, and taxes are not low in our country, and it's difficult to learn Danish. So we should be happy that people want to come and stay with us, and we should use that as a big possibility rather than the opposite. That's also a position that my party stands for.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go to some very quick yes and no questions just to spice it up a bit. So This is just like yes and no. And if there's anything, that you just have to elaborate, we'll take it at the end. So I have 9 short questions. The first one is completely something else. Should we be able to take a plane from Aarhus to Copenhagen? Yes or no?
Not in the long run. No.
Okay. Should EU countries stop selling arms to Israel or no?
We might have to take that decision.
Okay. Number 3 is, should cannabis be legalized?
We would definitely have to look at many different possibilities to make sure that the whole drug market is taken out of the hands of criminals. So I'm not personally quite sure that we should legalize, but I'm probably more in that direction. So it's probably, if it's a yes or no, it's probably a yes, but with a lot of thoughts.
Absolutely, and it's fine to be a maybe as well. Okay, the next one is, should farmers pay a tax on their CO2 emissions?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And the next one, are there too many MEPs, and should we reduce the number of MEPs in the European Parliament?
I think when we talk about the increase of countries in the European Union, and that will be a subject within the next 5-10 years, we will have to look at the, you could say, relative number of parliamentarians. I do think it is a very large parliament, but I also have a large respect for the fact that sometimes, because it's issues that need a lot of work that are dealt with in the European Parliament, and because we stem from different countries, I'm not sure that it's a total number of 700 plus that is the issue. It's more a question of not increasing that number when we actually take on board more countries. So it's sort of a yes and no answer, I guess.
Thank you. Then in a different direction is, are there any social media products or platforms that we should be banning in the EU?
We might have to face that. I hope not, but I do think that if social media platforms are obviously not healthy, obviously not paying attention to the rules that we have laid out, and the rules that we have laid out is to protect citizens, then I do think that there will be serious issues to address there. And again, I want to have it as the nuance, saying that a lot of social medias are also fantastic for us. They leave us with a lot of knowledge. So that is a balance, and it is a difficult balance.
Absolutely. And then the last two. So Second to last is, do you eat organic food?
Some, but for many years now, I think 16 years, I haven't been eating red meat. So I will have some chicken, not a lot. I'll have fish. And apart from that, I'll drink milk and I will have eggs and cheese. But I've left the beef and the beef stew and so, stuff like that. The steak is gone.
Okay, and then the last one, I think I know the answer to this one, but the question goes, should Denmark exit the EU?
No. No way. Look at what Brexit did. Oh my God. Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for those quick yes or no questions.
Now we're going to go and discuss a little bit about the Union. You probably know of the founding fathers and mothers of the Union, and you are aware of Robert Schuman. But he said in 1950 that Europe will not be made all at once or according to a single plan. It will be built through concrete achievements which first create a de facto solidarity.
Yeah.
Could you reflect on the foundations of the European Union? How are they reflected today? And are we actually evolving with the project that the founding fathers had in mind?
Yes, and a little bit no. But let me start on the positive note. As I said in the beginning, I was brought up with the fact that creating our common market as it was created was a peace project. And we shouldn't forget that the first union, what's it called, coal and steel union, was actually to watch each other, Germany and France, make sure that they didn't build up big arms and stuff like that. So that was in those days. We were still, the two world wars started in Europe. We should never forget that. We are not peaceful people that just walk around and, pat each other on the forehead. We can fight, and we should acknowledge that that is a risk. So working together, trading together, but not just trading. That's, I think, where we missed it with Russia and China, because trade is good, but it has to be kept together by strong institutions, as we know them in Europe. That's where we actually play by the book. We play by rules. We have common values. We respect citizens' rights. We respect male and female rights. We respect the fact that we have minority rights. All these things that we don't talk about, in my opinion, not enough. They're there to support us. That's sort of the people we are. And we have to take that into consideration, and we have to make sure that this is sort of what's sort of the fundamental in Europe. And on top of that, of course, after the trading, after the common market, we understood that we have to create a union, and that was the next level. And I do think that union still has a potential of becoming stronger. I don't see it as a, United States, new total United States model. I don't think, you could never know in 300 years from now, I don't know. But for me, that's not the point. For me, it is actually a big advantage that we have strong countries that are different, that we build also on our differences, but that we really understand that where we work together, where we really unite, where we're really also showing solidarity with each other, that's where we, in the world of today, create true value for all citizens in Europe.
Well, you know very well my stance on this one. For the past decade, I have fought for a European federation, and I think that's what our founding fathers wanted, and that's what I'm carrying the torch for. Of course, as you are as well, there is many people in between, which is fine as well, as long as we all realize that we need this union and we need to slowly build each aspect of it. Because right now, to be honest, we live in a bit of a Frankenstein style of Europe, where you have some rights, you don't have some rights are coming with you, some are not coming with you when you're moving from one state to another, and that doesn't really promote mobility. And I think in the end, regardless of how we call this future political formation of Europe, it should allow for seamless mobility between each part of Europe. I want to be able to go from Copenhagen to Milano and feel no difference. That's my dream, at least. That's at least how I see it.
Yeah, but Narcis, I understand where you come from, but I also think that the fact. Let me give you an example. When I leave Denmark and I go to my house in Greece, I absolutely adore the fact that people in Greece, one, they're wonderful, they're friendly, they're welcoming. They do delicious food, and they're very clear on philosophy, and they're very clear on democracy, and you can actually understand things in a different way with different perspectives if you try and have educated conversations. I think that if we made Europe completely the same, same language, same currency, same everything, I think we would take something away from Europe that is actually part of our strength. The fact that we can live together, we can do stuff together, and acknowledging that there are differences, cultural differences, ways to view things. I think it's part of our very, very strong and good DNA that this is kept. As long as it doesn't hinder us in doing a lot, for example, in defense. Why on earth should we not? We have, did you know that, 178 different weapon systems. USA have got 30. This is where, come on guys, let's fix this. Again, we have issues at our outer borders in Greece, in Italy, in Spain. We cannot live with the fact that leaving this for these countries. No, we've got to join forces. We've got to be show solidarity and take our part of this as the northern countries. So for me, this is the sort of way of thinking the union, and where it goes is in the long run. You might end up when I'm down under somewhere with what you want. But for me, to keep up also the strength in our differences is probably worth something.
Okay, and I fully understand. I fully support the idea of that we need defense cooperation. And I think the reason why you said yourself we have so many differences is because we have seen defense as core part of our national identity, core part of the national state. So it was very, very difficult to convince the national leaders to accept sharing anything military or defense related for so long. But now we don't have a choice anymore, right? No, we can see that Trump could be re-elected in USA, so good luck with that. We have the war in Ukraine that's not finishing anytime soon.
Sure.
So, we have to build this
But even worse, I think, not only did we look at it as a national privilege, or what we should call it, a national task, but we also underpaid towards the NATO. We said to ourselves, NATO is our defense alliance, and then we didn't pay. Then we let the US pay. And some European countries, actually, I can tell you, Greece have been at 4% of GDP for many years. So there is a difference also between the European countries here. What I think is very important in the defense story is that we stay in NATO, obviously. Why shouldn't we? But that we also get our own act together. That will give respect in Russia. That will give respect in China. And within the NATO community, they have asked for this for years. Said, why don't you get your act a little bit more together in Europe? Because it will strengthen NATO.
No, I fully agree with that. And I hope that if you get, I don't think it's a question mark behind it. Once you get elected,
thank you.
Once you get elected, I hope you'll be a strong voice for better security and defense cooperation in the European Parliament. And talking about European Parliament, I mean, isn't it weird that you get elected as a member of the Parliament, but you do not have the right to initiate laws? Don't you feel powerless in that direction? Are you planning to do something about that?
For me, again, that's a yes and no, because I actually think that there is a lot of power now in the Parliament, and I think it's more and more recognized. Because what is power? Power is also something you take. Power is also something you aim for. If you can see that stuff has to be done, and the fact that we are directly elected in Europe, we are the only directly elected institution, which puts us right on the spot, in my opinion. So for me, that is probably for the moment enough. But I know what you're getting at, the fact that we don't say, we need a law in this area and so on and so forth. But perhaps there I would be a little bit more patient, and I would say if we as a parliament can get the acts together amongst us to make sure that we get the Green Deal into actions, to make sure that we get the situations at the outer borders solved, that we actually start to work together. We get a commissioner, hopefully, to look at the common defense issues. If we can push for these things, I'm not too worried about who takes the initiative. What I do think we should talk more about, and I think that will also happen with enlargement, is how are commissioners elected and how is the head of the commission elected. I think these issues will be interesting.
Definitely. I fully agree with that. And now, just to give a break to our listeners before we go to part 3, we usually have a little bit of this is a tiny challenge before the bigger challenge. We have a quiz time. Let's see how well do you know the European Union project. You've been part of a European Union, a pro-European organization for so long.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just put you 3 questions. Let's see. We're just talking about enlargement. So, how many countries are on the list of potential new EU member states? If you had a chance to see it, or if you cannot know the number, just mention a few.
Yeah. No, definitely. North Macedonia, Moldova, Ukraine. Then we also have Serbia. Then we have Georgia. Yeah, but there you see, that's where it becomes difficult. Narcis. It's not easy, this one. But you don't want them to be, even better friends with Russia, do you? So it's
fair enough. Yeah.
It's a give and take. And what have I forgotten? Albania, and then also Turkey is on the list.
Yes.
But Turkey is controversial in this area. So
to say the least.
I would say one thing to add to this. Probably I've forgotten some, but I've at least mentioned quite a lot. But I would like to say that I think within the next year or two, we will see 1 or 2 of these mentioned countries actually get progress in their connection with the EU, because we need to show these countries that there is a way. That also goes into paving the way for Ukraine. But Ukraine cannot be really entering the EU before we have a peace solution. And so for me, that's very important to stress.
I really think the Western Balkans have waited really, really long time.
Yeah,
like it's soon enough, there'll be 2 decades since they're waiting.
Yeah.
So North Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, they're ready. Yeah. Maybe not Bosnia, but those 3 for sure are ready to join. And I think we should welcome them. Yeah. So next question, in how many countries was voting compulsory in the latest European Parliament elections? Like, there is some countries where actually you're obliged to go and vote. It's mandatory. Do you know any of them?
That I actually didn't know. There you got me.
Greece
I
is
didn't
one
know
of them.
That, you have to vote.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. You see how inspirational we get. No, that's great. Is that now? I'll show you my ignorance. But is that only for the European Parliament, or is it also for the? No, it cannot be, because I followed the local elections and they didn't have 100% voters.
I only know about for EP elections, and I know that they still don't get 100% because that's impossible. No. But people who don't show up, they get a fine.
Wow, but that is interesting. And to be honest, I think it shouldn't go in that direction. But you have to pay attention to democracy. Democracy is also an obligation for me. You can't just sit at home. No. If you don't know who you want to vote for, go and vote with a nothing. But do the action.
So for listeners, we have 5 countries: Belgium, Bulgaria, Luxembourg, Greece, and Cyprus. Which, of course, if Greece has it, Cyprus has to have it as well. I mean, there's no surprise there. Just like Eurovision, right?
That was new to me. Interesting.
And the last question from the quiz: EU, wants more women in the boardrooms. What percentage of board members in larger companies in the EU have to be women?
40%.
Since the new law. 40%, yes. Yeah. I expected that one.
And it's not, I have to correct you, because it's not women. It's the underrepresented gender.
Oh.
So it could be men.
What about the third gender, though? How do we deal with that?
Wait and see. Sorry, how about the what?
How do we deal with the third genders?
Well, that's a very good question. That's an extremely good question, and we need to think about it. But to be honest, and here we also have to be a little bit practical. This about the gender and the underrepresented gender in the boardrooms and even in the political arena has been such a difficult topic. So let's get that done, and then we can deal with the next round.
I fully agree. And with this, we have finished part 2, which was the union, and my colleague Zoe will take further part 3, the citizen.
Yes, so we've been speaking about EU citizenship a little bit in the beginning. So EU citizenship is a kind of a weird thing, because mostly when we think about citizenship, we think, oh, I'm Danish, or I'm French, or I'm Finnish, or I'm something else. But usually we don't really think I'm European, or it's maybe not as normal to think about. So what do you think about the whole idea of European citizenship as either, a supplementary thing, as it already is, or even a standalone citizenship, as there was some debate about after Brexit? And do you think that people are, maybe in Denmark especially, are they aware of their EU citizenship as such, or is it only coupled with their Danish identity?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't think people are aware of the EU citizenship and what it actually means. I think people, when they think about citizenship, they think about their country. That's my short answer.
And what about this idea of a standalone? I know it's not reality right now, but after Brexit, there was some talks about could we interpret EU citizenship as having standalone rights, so that, for example, people, so Brits could use their EU citizenship. It's a bit of a theoretical debate, but it could be discussed for EU citizenship in the future. What's your thought on this whole standalone debate?
I don't think it's the most important topic, to be honest. And that is even knowing people, British people who have really, really suffered, my family, from the fact that, they suddenly lost the many, many possibilities, not just traveling, but also living and so on and so forth. So if I was looking at this from an egoistic point of view, I would say, yes, we need this, and it has to be fast-tracked. That also tells you that I actually think it is a good idea. I don't think that it's something we should outrule. But if I have to prioritize, and I really do think we will have to do that in the coming years, I will have to say that we need to prioritize other subjects. Would I prioritize if the UK came and said, this is hopeful thinking, I would tell you that, but if the UK came and said, you know, could we renegotiate some areas because we actually want to get back closer to the European Union, I would say yes, of course, we have to sit down and talk about that. If the UK came and said we want to renegotiate, but it's only because some of the areas are tighter than we thought, I would say, okay, you know, that's not for now. We are busy with other subjects. That's a bit tough, but I think, you know, it's been such a painful thing for me with this whole Brexit, you know. So yes, if they want to come closer. Yes, if they want to have more rights for UK citizens in the EU, let's talk about it. Let's find a way. In the long run, yes to an EU citizenship if that will solve some real issues. But we need to solve real issues in these days. So I guess that's my position.
Okay, thanks. It's very interesting. And even for students, I mean, I'm a student myself for Erasmus, there's very practical things that come up. But speaking about this whole, like moving from one country to another within the EU. So now we leave Brexit and the UK at the side, unfortunately. But do you think that when you move from, let's say from Denmark to France or another EU member state, is there equal, not just opportunity, but are people viewed as equals? And is there still a treatment of differentiation? Or do you, I mean, I know this is very different per context, but is there still a lot of barriers, or is it still pretty harmonized if you move from one country to another?
There are still barriers. There are sort of, how can I say, legal barriers, practical barriers, and there are also some cultural barriers. They are decreasing, I think, but they are still there. And we have to, this is why I think it is so important that we face what are the emotional dimensions into this. Why do people get worried when they suddenly realize that, you know, a lot of people stem from another country and all this. So I would address this in a very simple way in schools, in kindergartens and in these areas, talking about the fact that we are a common, we also have this as part of our policy that we want the European Union to be part of what you learn in school. What is this all about? We don't know in Denmark, you can go to school for 10, even 13 years and not hear about the institutions in the European Union. That's a mistake. We should teach people this and also teach young people the possibilities in going abroad. Not just for holiday, but also for working and educating yourself as you have done, as Narcis have done. So that's for me very, very crucial. And one of this is sort of Stine Bosse's wishful thinking, would be that all young people in Europe would visit Brussels once with their teacher, getting familiar with what is Brussels. Like, it's not just something you see in the television, it's actually real people making real solutions for a lot of, many citizens. That sort of thing, I think, would pave the way, because we have to be very careful that we don't get all the technical stuff right and we lose the emotions. I also had the same sensation around the fact that when we had the euro introduced, we were still not talking about finding out, could we have one, perhaps two common languages? Now everybody speaks English, but UK has left. This is also a ridiculous situation. And there are some things there that we also need to deal with. But I think it has to grow from beneath. People need to become more familiar, more happy, more easygoing with the fact that we are together and what that means.
Absolutely. So this diversified thinking of that we're stronger, not just because we're thinking the same, but that we have different languages and different upbringings, but that we all learn about it in an educated way. I think that's a very good point.
Is it
but
possible,
that goes very well.
Sorry, a so short intervention, because I remember when we were together in the European movement, you were advocating that EU citizens should not be seen as immigrants. They should be seen as a category of its own, or if any.
I don't see it. No, I don't see it as immigrants. No, that's a nonsense. I mean, EU citizens working in EU countries, stemming from different nations, should be. I mean, this is my personal view. I don't see it as any kind of migrant. It's it's just people working together, and hopefully we will get there one day where that is common, that we actually see it as which is a huge possibility. Look at the wealth that we have created together, and the wealth created, for example, in a country like Denmark, with people stemming from Romania, from Poland, from Spain, from other European countries. That's a huge success story, and it was always a disaster that was not explained. That people could even think about this as a problem and not as a possibility. Not saying that it hasn't created problems. You might have had some issues in a workplace where there were different cultures and people didn't understand each other and all this blah blah blah. But that is solved. And if it's not solved, go and do it. The possibilities are enormous, and that's how this should be viewed.
I think a lot of people are expecting or are waiting for some any political parties in Denmark to try to make any sort of action in that direction, to kind of give more, because I feel like once this is done in a more, let's just say, at least in a declaration way, I feel like also the population will slowly start seeing that there is difference, there is nuances that they need to consider. They cannot just categorize everyone in the same way. Which, but look, in general, we shouldn't. Yeah. No,
I have as one of our suggestions in Moderaterne, we're trying to look into the fact that we could have you could call it a workers card, employee card, where you can actually show these are my skills. This is what I'm educated in. This is areas that I've trained in. And when you move between different countries, you can then also be enlightened in what are my rights? What are the overenskomster? What is that called? The collective agreements in this field where I work. So we get rid of all this, misusing people that stem from another country and that don't know enough about the rules of the game in the country they go to. That, of course, we should get out of the way, because that hinders. It hinders people in moving, and it also hinders the acceptance of people moving.
Thank you so much for answer on that. And I think we can just, because I see we run out a bit of time, we can do the very last thing, which is the challenge time. So we end on a more cheerful note. I would say you can share with us 2 stories from your political journeys, or 2 beliefs that you have about the European Union. And one of this has to be true, and the other one has to be false or invented. And then me and Zoe has to guess which one is true and which one is false. So at least we finish this on a happy note.
Let me see. Let's see, Narcis. Well, is it a vision for Europe, or is it something that is a fact?
It's up to you. I mean, it has to be 2 different things, one false, one true, regardless if it's a belief or a story or a happening that you went through.
Could be something like someone you met, or like a story about yourself.
Okay.
We could guess.
Let me see. I went to not Brussels. I think it was actually Strasbourg some years back, and I met a lot of people from all over Europe, and it was with the European movement. And we had a long, very interesting talk done by Mark Rutte, who is now a candidate for the NATO position. And it was actually, he was very clear also on some of the geopolitical issues. So that was very interesting. And the other thing that I would explain to you is that there are now initiatives to try and make sure that the way that we deal with our waste should be organized in the same way, so that, you know, the way that we throw out food, the way that we throw out plastics, the way that we throw out metal stuff is organized exactly in the same way in all countries, so that we can collect all the garbage in one big entity and reuse it.
You're really trying to trick us here.
I feel like the second one is a very great idea. I think I will support you for that one. A united waste management union.
But what is true, and I think that's probably where you got your inspiration, is this whole the new initiatives on how to deal with plastics that we only use one time. But that's a very good one. I think the first one was true and the second one was false, but inspired by new events.
You're right, I think you've got it.
Perfect.
You've got it.
Thank you so much, Stine, for taking the time to talk with the international community in Denmark. We hope that you will allocate at least 5% of your campaign resources to target us, to target internationals living or EU citizens living in Denmark.
I will definitely give it a true think.
Nice, because as is actually maybe not that well known, there's almost 300,000 non-Danish, so EU citizens living in Denmark, and they can, as you know, join the electoral roll and vote for a candidate in Denmark. They just have to register. And actually, there was a recent poll done by last week in Denmark, the media, that showed that almost a third are considering voting for a candidate in Denmark. Fantastic. So that is promising.
That's really good.
And that's a potential of 100,000 potential votes. So all in all, thank you for listening to everyone, and thank you, Stine. And remember that all citizens have the right to vote in their country or in where you live. And if you choose to vote in your country of residence, so in this case Denmark, which we encourage, you need to fill in a form at your municipality, but it's just online.
Stay tuned until the next episode of VOTEHOME, the podcast serial that wants you to have a choice on 9th of June 2024.